Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the personal development podcast for the seven-figure entrepreneur who's looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
Yes, it is indeed a happy Monday. And it's going to be an even happier Monday for that person who is battling certain fears, that the fears that are keeping you from pursuing your dream, from pursuing your goal, and pursuing your aspiration in life. So we're going to talk about that today, how to overcome your fear in 3 steps. And it's funny, I do these overcoming procrastination workshops, Steve, and we always start unpacking what causes you to procrastinate. And fear always comes up. And I never bring it up, but someone always mentions that they're afraid of something. So this is going to be a helpful episode. So really think about what it is that you're afraid of, and hopefully we'll give you some tools to help you to overcome that. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it with our guest. He is known as the Motivational Firewood Guy. He blends back to basics positivity, visualization, and humor, teaching his clients to see their desired outcomes, understand their why, and build action plans to achieve them. Please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour, Steve Gamlin.
Thank you very much, Eric. Great to be here, and great to be here with you as well, Ted.
Yeah, welcome. Definitely great to have you on. And first off, I want to give you a shout out. And I want to give you a shout out just for this. You just have this like relentless level of positivity. Like you are literally one of the more positive people that I know. And you and we've interacted on another platform. We share a mentor, and I follow you on social media. Everything you do is just this high level of positivity. I don't see how someone can be negative around you. Like it's impossible.
Yeah. Well, it occasionally happens, but it's funny because it just reminds me that my choice to be positive every day is a good one, because that number is getting smaller and smaller as the years go by. It used to be when I chose to hang around with some people who weren't exactly super positive, kind of stuck out like a sore thumb back then. But it comes down to this. Look, there's only two types of energy out there. There's positive and there's negative. And so many people say the world's so negative, the world's so negative. You know what? The world's got plenty of positive people. I believe there's actually more positive than negative, but the negative makes so darn much noise.
Absolutely.
Especially on social media. So if I can just go out every day, no matter where I am, whether it's on the street or on stage or backstage or on social media or walking down the Captain Crunch aisle at the grocery store, I just figure I want to leave a trail of plus signs behind me, like good conversations or compliments or comments or a little act of kindness or just a thumbs up or a high five to somebody or just an encouragement. And if I leave a trail of plus signs behind me all day long, those go out into the world as ripples. And I never know how far they go. And it's not my business to know. But at least if I put my head on my pillow at night and I know that I did my best all day to leave as many plus signs, as many situations as possible better than I found them. Because here's the cool part. I own the factory. I'll never run out of plus signs. I just make some more. I'm more engaged than the elves in the trees making cookies. I'm just on. If I'm awake, I'm on, trying to be positive, And that's just it. So I appreciate that. That means a ton to me that you are impacted that way. So thank you.
Yeah. So is this just a natural thing for you? Is this something you've had to work at? Have you always just been this glass is half full type person?
I've tried to be. I've had ups and downs in my life, and believe me, I'm not one of those people who are out there going, "Hey, every day above ground's a great day," because it's not. I've had some serious lows in my life with depression and with deaths of people very close to me, and a pandemic that wiped out both my businesses for about 2 years. And it's gotten easier over the years to just intentionally find the good and be the good whenever possible. Because I know if I am, and this goes to a lot of the things that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, because I love his work. If I intentionally put some positivity out there and create a better opportunity for myself to see more people like that and more situations and more opportunities, the less I dwell on the negative, the better it is for me, because it's going to take me down the wrong path for sure.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned this thing of having, businesses fail during the pandemic, because we don't want people to think it's just always all sunshine and rainbows and, oh, I can't be like
Yeah.
Steve because, he's got these different advantages. But I'm just curious, like, so when you're in the midst of this pandemic and your businesses are failing and that type of thing, like, what was your self-talk during that time?
Oh, my self-talk was very trying, because at the time, I now refer to that 3-year period of my life as 3 deaths in the pandemic. I lost my dad. I lost my
Mhm.
mentor, who was the backbone of the digital part of my business. And we lost our little dog. And both my businesses, which were event-based, got shut down because live events just disappeared. So it was really tough to keep the positivity going, because it was things that were out of my control as far as the business went. But luckily, about 13 years ago, I started the daily habit with a gratitude journal. And
Mm.
every morning I get up, and when I finish my workout now, last 3 years of working out, I get to my desk, I pull out my journal, and I write down my 3 favorite positive moments from the day before. And even the morning after my dad died, somebody said, "How can you possibly be grateful for something today?" And it was one of the easiest days. So finding the positive every day on purpose probably saved me during that time, because it was early in the day. And I said, well, at least if I get that little thing that I can keep my toes curled around so I can keep climbing up the mountain, then it's a pretty good start. But you've got to be really intentional, because it's so easy to get flushed like a toilet in negative times. It really is.
Yeah, you can get flushed like a toilet. That's
Yep.
that's for
You
sure.
don't want to get flushed like a toilet.
No,
That's pretty
no,
bad.
no, no. It is bad, because you're not going to like where the end of the trip goes. It ain't
That's
like
right.
Shawshank, where he goes down the dusty
Yeah.
pipe and comes out
Yeah.
to
You
salvation.
don't want that.
No, there's no parade at the septic tank in our yard. So yeah, I do my best to
Yeah.
I do my best to stay above water here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But so I mean, you're somebody who's a naturally positive person, but I think my takeaway is that you even have tools though, right? You've got the gratitude journal.
Yeah.
And so I think that should be a takeaway for somebody who's watching. What are your tools to remain positive? What are your
Yeah.
tools to focus on? Don't just depend on, my outlook or things going well.
Yeah.
So good. I'm glad you shared that. Now, I am curious, like what's the backstory behind the motivational firewood guy?
Yeah, that came early in my speaking. I've been a speaker now. This summer will be 20 years since my very first speaking events. And early on, somebody said, "Hey, there's a National Speakers of Association meeting in Boston once a month. You should go check it out and do some networking." So I went down there, and I see the entrance table, and everybody that's a paid member has these fancy lanyards and these badges, and everything looks gorgeous. And somebody points to a Sharpie and a "Hello, my name is" tag, and they go, just put your name on that, I guess. So I'm already feeling like, a little intimidated by everybody who knows what they're doing already. And I was brand new. And a gentleman named Dennis asked, "Hey, Steve," he saw my name on the badge. He goes, "So what brings you here?" I said, "Well, I'm starting to become a speaker." He says, "Well, what do you speak on?" I said, "Well, motivation and positivity." He goes, "All right, what sets you apart?" And I said, "Well, I want to help people." He said, "We all want to help people. What makes you different?" And God love him. He had the patience of a saint, because about 3 to 5 minutes later, finally exasperated because I haven't given an answer that he was satisfied with, I kind of threw my hands up. I go, "Don, look, if people are paying to come hear me speak, it means they've got a challenge in their life. They might have a spark of something in their heart, but they don't know what to do about it, and they're frustrated. So if I share a story, a tip, a tactic, an example, or something, and the next day they get up and do something with it, it's kind of like I gave them a piece of motivational firewood."
Hmm.
And he goes, "Young man," because I was in my late 30s at the time. He goes, "Young man," he goes, "that is what I was looking for." He goes, "First off, do you know anything about trademarks? Because that's a really unique, interesting phrase. You should look into that. And second," he said, "not only do I like what you said," he goes, "but your face just lit up when you described it that way. So run with that. And I've owned the trademark on Motivational Firewood ever since.
Oh, great. That's great. So it's funny. Your experience is similar to mine because I was in Toastmasters, I was in National Speakers Association, and
Yep.
yeah, at the time when I first started, I had the business card that said motivational speaker. And somebody pulled me to the side and said, "Come on, man, we got to do better."
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It's
Just
true.
so-
And it comes from such a loving place when they do that. And I'm so appreciative even now.
Tell you what you about to say.
I'm gonna say, so the other 1,000 motivational speakers in
Right.
the room.
Yeah.
Right. So
Mhm.
that's literally the birth of that's how I became your procrastination prevention partner.
Nice.
You
Love
know,
that.
because motivational speakers are just amongst the thousands. And I think that's a challenge for people starting out in business, trying to find different ways to differentiate themselves from the thousands and thousands of people who do what they do. So I'm curious though, Steve. So like, if you could go back and be a mentor to that beginner version of yourself, and you're just starting out, knowing what you know now, like, what advice would you give to yourself?
Give yourself a break, because just prior to that, a couple years prior to becoming a speaker, I had a 10-year, very successful radio career. I was married and I was doing well until I got so burned out and exhausted that I just snapped and walked away from radio, went through a divorce, and tens of thousands of dollars in debt because I was not paying attention. Had to move back in with my family, just broke in every sense possible. And I was brutal to myself, my self-talk. If you look back in my journals from that time, you'll see the words hurricane knucklehead category 5. I was not kind to myself. And that actually lasted for about 10 years. Even into my speaking career, I was brutally self-deprecating. I replayed the low light reel, and on Sports Center, you see the highlight reel every day.
Yeah.
I replayed the low light reel, and my self-talk was just horrible. I mean, and I started doing stand-up comedy around that time too. So I thought being self-deprecating and getting laughs was okay until somebody pulled me aside and very sternly explained to me what I was doing to myself by being that way. And that was June of 2012 that I got that wake-up call. So it was about 7 or 8 years of being self-deprecating, and it's been a 10-year journey so far, edifying. Not bragging, but at least honoring myself. And it's made a huge difference. So that's what I would say to the younger me and to anybody else starting out. People will say, be self-deprecating. It gets a laugh. It'll connect you with the audience. Don't do that. Please do not do that.
Interesting. So the takeaway is to not be self-deprecating at all.
Yeah. Honor yourself. Those are two of the most important words that I've learned. Again, it doesn't mean bragging. It just means cut yourself some slack.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's and the challenge is, if you're a high achiever, you're focused on results, it's easy to go down that road of beating yourself up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you
Very
figure,
easy.
I'm harder on myself. I mean, to this day, and I think I've gotten better at it, but I think I'm harder on myself than anybody could be on me.
Yep. Yeah.
Which
Oh,
can
I
be
still
good or
get
bad.
flashes of it. Believe me,
Yeah. Yeah.
it still rears its head once in a while going, hey, remember me? You made a mistake yesterday. So let me dredge up this old stuff. So what I do now is I start every Monday through Friday at 5:05 a.m. My alarm goes off and I go full on Mel Robbins on the start of my day. The 5-second rule, that alarm is shut off within 5 beeps. Then I count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, both feet on the floor, hit the bathroom mirror. And as soon as the lights go on, huge high five and a big smile in the mirror. I'm more awake and alert and positive by 5:06 than many people are by their second cup of coffee. And I point at myself and I said, we're going to have a rocking day. Let's go. That is so much better because I set the tone for myself, my self-talk, and my opinion of myself right out of the gate now. And it's a good place to start.
Again, so that's another specific tool you have, right? So we talked about the gratitude journal. So now you've got you do the 5-second rule with Mel Robbins, the 5, 4, 3, 2. And by the way, that does work.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people overcut. They were putting off calling a hiring applicant. They were putting off this. They do that countdown you mentioned, and all of a sudden now they're in action.
Yeah.
And then even doing the high five in the mirror. I mean, that's another specific tool. I mean, I like the fact that you got these specific tools to really help move you forward.
Yep. Yep. None of us gets through this by ourselves. And some people
Yeah.
say, I can do it all. No, you can't if you're like me.
Yeah.
I love, some people say, Steve, I really appreciate that you give credit to these people because not everybody does. I'm like, are you kidding? These are like my friends. These are my allies, my mentors, my heroes, even. These are my tribe. So, oh yeah, I'm going to give the credit because somebody else may hear this and go, well, I should look into that thing by Mel Robbins because I watch Mel's videos almost daily.
Mm-hmm.
I love having her in my corner. She doesn't even know it, but she's a big part of my life.
Yeah. Oh, she's got great content for sure. So Ted, you are definitely a glass is half full type person. I mean, what are some of the things that you do to maintain positivity?
I just think it's all in mindset. Like I just have to just, like to be negative, it just takes so much energy, right? It just takes so much energy. I mean, it's you always have to look at it in anything. I guess I guess long as you're still alive, right? You're blessed, right? And so so some of these situations, you think that they're the worst things in the world, but then sometimes you just you got to look at it again as that that glass is half full versus half empty. What I also know is being an entrepreneur and then being in other leadership positions, others are always feeding off of me, right? So if I'm down in the dumps, I can't stand there long. I remember one time years ago we had bid on several proposals, and one of my team leads, she had we had found out about a couple of losses, and every single one, I mean, it was just like ripping a part of her away, and I just kept like trying to encourage her. It'll be the next one. It'll be the next one. And to be honest, Steve, out of let's say about 3 or 4 of them, we didn't win any of them. Right. And then that last one, I was kind of done. Like I'd given her so much to kind of keep going, and that one kind of got me. I was like, ah. So I just said, look, tonight we're gonna both just, we're gonna both sulk a bit, but tomorrow we're back at it. Right. So we're not gonna let this carry on for for days and weeks. It's gonna be this evening. That's gonna be it. You can get it out and cry, do whatever you got to do, break some stuff, whatever you're gonna do. Don't kill anybody, right? But tomorrow we're gonna be back at it. And I just think like you have to be very intentional at looking at it as the glass is it's half full, and kind of like you were saying, Steve, you have much more positives than you have negatives. You have more good days than you have bad days. You meet more good people than you do bad people. So yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff. Good stuff. And this term mental toughness gets thrown around. But I think the definition of mental toughness, and Steve, feel free to chime in. I think is if you can maintain positivity in the face of negativity. Like to me, that's how you know you're mentally tough. When you're about to go out of business, you got this going on, and you're still able to maintain that level of positivity. That's how you know. Steve, certainly welcome your thoughts.
Yeah, 100%. And I've got a phrase that I've been using forever. And this is when people ask, hey, Steve, how do you make up those stories you share on stage? And I do the puppy head tilt. I tilt my head and look at them. I go, really? Have you not been paying attention the last 20 plus years? It really comes down to mental toughness. No matter what is happening, here's how I see it. That which doesn't kill me gives me a great story to share on stage. So why wouldn't I want to keep going out there every day and just keep showing up? And sometimes things happen for the better, and sometimes they happen and they knock me back down the mountain a little bit. But guess what? Those are the stories that people love to hear from me the most. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, like you said.
Yeah.
Some days the best you can hope for is, when the thunderstorm comes through and the clouds are just like dark, 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 dark gray. And at the very end, that little crack comes through the clouds and the one ray of light comes through. And I'll tell people, you know what? That's my job, is to be that guy, is to be that for my audiences and for just people on the street who might be having a bad day. I want to be that one little tiny ray of light that comes through the crack. So I have to, on purpose, with purpose, show up every day and be that person as best I can. I'm not perfect at it, but I got pretty good batting average of reminding myself to show up that way.
It's interesting when you talk about how you encounter people. And, I started something not too long ago when I go to restaurants, right? And the server comes up to me and I find out their name and I say, I feel like we're in really good hands today. And you just watch how they light up.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
And they're just like, you are. I got you.
Nice.
Like from that period on, you're getting a certain level of attention. And I've heard them say, hey, I'm glad, and then when they finish, you did a really amazing job today.
Yeah.
Something that they've probably been doing all throughout the day and no one said that to them. And that means a lot. And then also I think it helps when they go in the back that if they drop your roll or whatever, they're going to make sure they're going to be like, yeah, I don't want to do that to this guy. He's a nice guy. Let me get him a fresh one. But no, I just think, like you said, it's just all about, when you're engaging with people. And if you're able to, like you said, be that positive light for them, that may be the nicest thing they've heard all week.
Yeah. And it's funny, in so many interactions, whether it's at a restaurant or even a convenience store, or my favorite is the deli counter at our grocery store. I'll always look over I don't have to look hard. I'm 6'2", but look over the counter and just tell somebody, you know what? I hope I'm the meanest, nastiest pain in the butt you have your entire shift today. That's and right. They know me, so they start laughing. And sometimes they get it wrong and they go, oh no. I go, think about that. And then they start laughing. They go, no, wait, yes. And I always say, you know what it guarantees? Because I do it just loud enough so the person behind me won't dare be rude. And if I'm not telling somebody you shouldn't talk that way. I'm setting the tone. Yeah. And I'm treating that person with respect. I may be the only person all day. Like you said about the wait staff at a restaurant or the server. We might be the only one. So why would we even dare to miss the opportunity to do that? And the funniest thing is, the connections I've made like that and in the moments, some of the most important ones were days that I was down, and doing that on purpose, with purpose, actually made my day better.
Good stuff. Oh, that's good stuff. All right. So let's talk about these fears. So, I mean, you interact with people at all kinds of levels. So what do you see as just the most common fears that are out there that hold people back?
Oh gosh, not good enough, not smart enough, not cool enough, not hip enough, not sexy enough. Too afraid of what other people will think. Afraid that people will laugh at you if you take a chance and maybe it doesn't work out super good on the way and you get the I told you so moments. And one that I always tack on there is a fear of success. Like, oh my gosh, what happens if this actually works? That one, early on, that one actually crippled me for a while. Because I was still in that not self-destructive, but self-deprecating mode. And, I'm not really good enough. But I put this program out and it teaches people this, or I'm getting up on stage, I'm getting paid to speak, I'm coaching now. And all of a sudden, what happens if this gets wildly successful? And all of a sudden I don't have any time, and I don't have time to mow my lawn, and all of a sudden this freight train is racing through my head when I'm still at the station shoveling coal into the engine and I've already got it doing 90 miles an hour down the track and I'm freaking out. So I've had to rein that one in quite a bit. That was early on. That was a big one for me. What happens if it becomes successful? And that's when the imposter voice comes in. Like, well, I'm not good enough to be that successful. I'll be fooling everybody. And then when they find out the truth, I'm going to lose it all. All of this before I even had a program or a product. I literally did that to myself. And I think a lot of people do. Every time I share that, other people start to share theirs with me. So I like to fall on the sword with authenticity and vulnerability first, with no concerns or questions about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because fear of success is very high on the list as far as from even the people I interact with, and it always surprises me. A lot of people admit that that's the thing they're afraid of, because like, okay, what will this next level mean? If I get to this next level, I'm gonna be gone more. Am I gonna, what if they want me to do a third speech? I've only got 2 good ones,
That happened to me once. And I had a meltdown on stage. I reverted back to self-deprecation on the third day and lost all credibility I'd built up over the previous two. And
Oh,
that was the
man.
day I got intervened upon in June of 2012. And a good friend of mine who's like a brother said, if I ever hear you talk about yourself like that again, A, we're no longer brothers, and B, you'll never be invited to my stage again.
Oh, wow.
He said, bro, I just watched you fall apart and revert back to a version of you I'd never met, because we had just met at the time. He goes, and I hope to never see that version of you again. Bro, you got to do better than that. You're worth more than that. And that's the one that finally shifted the tide for me.
Okay. So the other thing that I see is pretty common is this fear of criticism. Like
Yeah.
a lot of times you think it's fear of failure, but it's really fear of criticism. Like, what will people think if this doesn't work out? Or what if I get out here and it doesn't go well and I bomb? And talk to that. Is that something common that you see?
Oh yeah, it's when I look in the mirror, I see that has happened over the years. But I see that a lot too, especially in this age of social media and how toxic it can be from people who either don't even know you or don't really matter in your life. People share something on social media, and all of a sudden, boy, you get that one comment, and then it gets a little darker, a little darker, a little darker. By the fourth one, you got people having fights with you, and you don't even know them, and they're putting you down, and they're questioning why you're doing what you're doing. You must be crazy. You're not good enough for that. Criticism from all sides, because that's what some people choose to do every day. It makes people so hesitant to even share what they want to do. And when they do that, see, sometimes we can't just keep it to ourselves. We got to put it out there. We've got to put it out there and connect with the right people. I don't just blast everything that I do on social media anymore. I used to, but then you get the people. What do what qualifies you to do this? Are you certified? No. Do you have a PhD? No. Are you certified in NLP? No. Why do you do what you do? And finally, I took a picture here in my recording studio of a little chalkboard, and I wrote, "This guy lived it." And I drew an arrow, put my face in front of the arrow, took a selfie. And anytime somebody questions me or criticizes me for how I do what I do, I just send them that picture. So it's the reaction to my journey and my life and everything I've gone through, because I took a ton of notes along the way, and thank God, because that became my paid programs.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you can criticize all you want. If you don't like what I do, that's okay. There's other people that teach it too, maybe in a way that's better for you. That's all. I'm just really good at being me. Same person off stage, on stage, off, backstage, corner, and Captain Crunch Isle. I've had amazing connections with people in all of those places.
Well, that's awesome. That is awesome. So let's talk about, so what are the 3 steps that people can take to overcome their fears?
Yeah, they're really easy. And they actually came to me, not in a meditation or anything like that. I was standing almost 1,000 feet above a concrete patio in Las Vegas, jumping off the 108th floor of the Stratosphere Hotel building. That's the great thing about America. We build tall buildings, and then, we're entrepreneurs, and we're business people. So we charge people to jump off. So I did. For $132 and a GoPro camera on my wrist, I stood at the edge and I looked down, and the young woman who was operating the ride said, "Okay, I'm going to count in a couple of minutes. I'm going to count to 3, and then you're going to go." And all of a sudden in my head, there was a voice that said, "Hey, you can deduct this jump off your taxes." And I started to laugh, because I thought of a 3-step process literally in that moment, because I started to think, oh my gosh, she's going to count 1, 2, 3, and I'm not going to go. And then I start, I've sock puppet theater talking to myself. I'm like, well, why aren't we going to go? We're not going to go because she's going to pause, or you're going to pause, and you're not going to go when you're supposed to go. And then everybody's going to see the video and think that you cried like a little girl and deleted that part out and then filmed the jump. So I thought, what's one of my biggest fears is not taking action when an opportunity presents itself. Like, I'm a person who would always hang back and wait for everybody else to do it first, because I didn't have the guts to just go for it. So the first thing is, know exactly what you're afraid of. What was I afraid of? Was not going when the opportunity presented itself, when I was supposed to go, and chickening out. The second thing is, find people who can guide you through it. Either research people who've gone through that, find a coach, a mentor, a therapist, anybody. who can talk you through it and help you to identify it and show you the steps to go, and they earn your trust. And then step 3 is simple. Trust them and take action. So that when she said, "You ready? 3, 2, 1," I didn't just lean off the building, because my wife Tina was down at the patio videoing me. Somebody goes, "So did Steve just lean off the building?" She goes, "He leapt like Superman." I mean, I jumped as far as I could off this building and swan dived 108 floors down, screaming my brains out, having a ball the whole way. And when I got home, it was almost tax season, and I deducted it off my taxes, and my very dry, humored accountant pushed it back across the table. He goes, "And what is this?" I said, "It jumped off a building."
So Steve,
Yep.
so when you jumped off this building, and what was below? Like what caught you?
Well, it was actually a cable. You know, like the winch on the front of a Jeep, it has the drum with the cable on it. This
Yeah.
has a huge drum at the top of the building. So you're essentially free falling
Okay.
for about 104 floors, and then a very gentle braking system kicks in at the end, and you slowly descend. And I was still screaming, having a ball, and the guy goes, "Okay, sir, put your feet down." And I looked down, I'm like, "I'm at the patio." And I looked up going,
So
"That
the
was
cable,
awesome."
so the cable is hooked onto you when you're doing that. That
Yes.
jump. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not gonna do that, Steve.
Yep. It's, I
I mean,
always say,
that sounds really exciting, Steve.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, I'm gonna leave
It
that
was
to
a
you. I'm gonna leave
blast.
that to you. I'm gonna leave that to you and Eric.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I've always said, if I go back and do it again, I'm going to duct tape a pizza box to my hand and just point at people on their balconies on the way down and go, "Is this yours?"
That's it.
So Steve, like, I've been working with Ted for so long, I can look at the expression on his face and know what he's thinking. And he had that "I'm not ever doing that" look on his
I'm not
face.
ever doing that. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Yep.
I'm glad you got a lot out
Yep.
of it. That's not going to be me, Steve.
Yep. It's not for everybody. For some
No.
people, what one of my biggest fears was for most of my life up until about maybe 20 years ago? Going to a restaurant alone or going to the movies alone. Wouldn't do it. Oh my gosh, did I have a social fear about that? Feeling like a loser because I was alone, and it kept me from enjoying so many things. That to me was actually tougher than jumping off the 108th floor of a building to overcome that.
Yeah.
No, I've since overcome it, and I love it, but
I'll sit at that restaurant anytime. I'll watch a movie anytime. I'm not going to be jumping off no 100+ building. No.
that's okay.
No.
That is funny.
Yep.
So you have to know first you have to know what you're afraid of.
Yep.
Secondly, you have to find people who can talk you through it. And then thirdly, you have to trust them and take action.
Yep.
So something I believe, like, I don't think that fear is necessarily a bad thing.
Nope.
Like, I think it helps, right? Like, I think,
Yeah.
fear will keep you from walking into the lion's den.
Yep.
Fear will keep you from walking out in traffic.
Yep.
Like, for me, I think, like, my common fear is a fear of failure.
Mhm.
That's I don't want to fail. I want to win. I want to succeed. So it motivates me to want to perform. I mean, to want to practice and make sure, I'm ready to go, so I don't get out and look bad. So I just think people need to understand that fear isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just if it gets to the point where it keeps you from taking action.
Yeah.
Certainly, Steve, feel free to chime in on that.
Yeah, 100%. Fear is a good thing. Fear is a good motivator, because if you see a better version of yourself out there that you want to become, and a little fear is holding you back, that's okay, because it got you this far. Now you've just got to find the next mentor or step or education or something, alliance or collaboration or something to get you to that next place. So it's okay to be afraid, because we don't want to be, I wouldn't want to be jumping off the 108th floor of a building without that cable. Some people may say, "You know what? I can hit that little pool of water down there." Go for it. I'm not doing it without a cable. But, one of the things that I can't stand about this industry, personal development, are the catchphrases. People hear fear, and all of a sudden they went to a Tony Robbins event. I've literally had people in the middle of a Zoom call go, "But Steve, fear is false evidence appearing real. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Forget
Right.
everything and run." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Did you see that on a bumper sticker when you got here?" Fears are real. If they're keeping you from doing something, they are real. So you do your best to identify them, find a way to get through it, and then take the steps to work past it. And guess what? there's going to be probably another fear out there waiting for you at some point. But you're going to be really glad that you got through that first one to get to that next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. I'm glad I have fears about stuff because they've made me work harder to get better.
Absolutely. Good. Good. I think we help somebody to work through their fears and not be paralyzed by the fear. So now they're going to move forward and pursue their goals and dreams. So I did want to shift gears a little bit. This thought just came to mind. So Steve, like you tell this story. It doesn't. What I'm about to ask you has nothing to do with what we've been talking about up to this point. Just want to prepare you. So, so you tell this story about this guy. He's wealthy and he passes away and can't get anybody to be a pallbearer at his funeral.
Yeah.
I remember you and I were talking about that. Can you share that full story?
Sure. Yeah, it's my buddy Greg. Greg is a very successful entrepreneur, and he has a Subway franchise, at least one, if not two, and he's done very well for himself. And his mentor, when he first got into business, was an older gentleman, extremely financially successful. And he got up there in years, and Greg got a call one day from this man's wife, and she said, well, he passed away, and I'm really having a tough time. And she said, I can't even find 6 people to be his pallbearers. He spent his entire life, all of his goals were just financial. It was all about working hard, making money, working hard, making money. He had fractured relationships with his children who were all in various stages of addiction to alcohol, drugs, were in and out of jail. Everyone around him suffered greatly because of the way he lived his life. And he was not a happy person. He was just driven for that goal of just more money, and didn't take enough time to devote to the relationships in his life. And it broke Greg's heart that somebody that he held in such esteem. Now, he knew what the guy was like, but he had been a great help to him. But it's heartbreaking to get to the end of your life and all of a sudden realize that nobody really cares enough that you're gone to show up and carry your casket.
That's tough.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember you told me that. That really stuck with me, and I think because we're all about entrepreneurship on this show and driving towards your goals. But I think you never want to be in that position where you've made all this money, you've had all the success, but you can't even get 6 people together to be your pallbearer.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's sad.
Yeah, I mean that also shows that if they weren't available, for him when he passed, that they weren't really available to him while he was living. So you didn't really have so that's really the more painful thing, right? Like the fact that he didn't have that type of engagement with friends and positive relationships while he was living. After he passed, he probably pretty tough on his wife, but even at that point,
Yep. That's not a legacy that I want to live.
Yeah.
I mean, money is great. Money, I love to make money, but
Mm-hmm.
I work with a life wheel in the vision board work that I do. And I tell people, look, there's no one thing in here that's more important than the others. Physical health, emotional well-being, your relationships, your core values that guide everything you do, your faith, which is kind of the same. It just comes from a different direction, your connection with people in a real way, and your work and your money.
Yeah.
That's why when people show up to me and they go, oh, I made a vision board, Lamborghini, yacht, private jet, mansion, helicopter, big honking gold watch, and a bank vault full of gold bars and cash. I'm like, that's a letter to Santa Claus. Not that there's anything wrong with those. Where's the rest of your life?
Right.
Yeah.
Because when all that goes away, what's left? And in the case of that gentleman, when his life went away, all of a sudden the dust clears and all he had ever worried about was money and power. And that was it.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. That's
Yeah.
really powerful. And so when I'm working with people on like the whole wheel of life thing, because I think a lot of people think that, oh, you have to have balance. And balance means that I spend equal amounts of time, working. No, I think balance, it's more about harmony. It could be that you're spending more time working, but you're not neglecting these key areas of your life. You're not neglecting your health. You're not neglecting your loved ones. You're giving it the necessary attention, although yeah, right now for this season, yes, I may be working more to get us to
Mhm.
this point.
Yep. Yep. Oh, I've worked with some people and they say, Steve, and I love that you use the word harmony. I use harmony and integration, but the word balance, people say work-life balance. I'm like, well, work is one, life is 7 other ones altogether. So you kind of,
Yeah.
you're minimizing it. But to tell people, look, here's how simple it actually is. If you devote time to one, it can actually benefit all the others. Like if you take care of your physical health, eat better, get more exercise, get enough sleep, you wake up in the morning with more energy and better focus. You go to work that way, you can be more efficient. More efficient, you could earn more money. More money, you can buy back some time and freedom and enjoy special things in your relationships. You do it all with good core values and by the rules of your faith, you're going to have better emotions and connection. That's all 8, just because you decided to take steps to take better care of your health. So even that ripples outward into your entire life if you do it right.
For sure, for sure. So, and I know you get asked a lot of questions by different people just based off of what you do. I am curious, like what's one question you never get asked that you wish people would ask you?
It's funny, people rarely ask me about my faith, and I'm not
Mm,
part of any organized religion or spirituality or anything. And I always say, me and God have a great relationship, and he keeps me around because I make him laugh. But one of the ways that my life has benefited from my faith, whatever version of it, however people choose to describe it, is I've had 3 guardian angels who showed up at my life at some pretty low times, who shifted and gotten me back on track with just a conversation.
mm,
And one was my friend when I was 24 years old, very broken, depressed, barely graduated college, no idea what I was going to do with my life. He asked why I'd never followed my dream of being on the radio.
mm.
And about a month later, I started that journey.
Oh wow.
Right after I blew up, and he actually passed away 3 weeks after I got my first radio job.
Mm,
So he was here long enough. I was 24, he was 23, he passed away from cancer.
mm,
About a year after I left radio, again, back in the ashes, conversation with a life coach the day after I spent an hour hitting golf balls in a thunderstorm, daring the lightning to hit me. And he asked, how was your week? And I told him the story of that hour in a thunderstorm, barefoot in the wet grass, under power lines. And when he
Mm.
stopped laughing, he asked, have you ever thought of being a motivational speaker or a stand-up comedian? I think you'd be great at both. And at the tail end of COVID, another friend of mine, because speaking events weren't back yet, I'd shut down my DJ business. And he said, well, Steve, he goes, I love your voice. Why aren't you doing voiceover work? I said, well, I did it years ago. And he said, I think you should get back to it because your voice is more mature than it was however many years ago. I think you could do well at it. Now, here's the thing. All 3 of those people were named Dan or Daniel. And I told this on a podcast one time, and the host said, wow, it's like guardian angels. Do you know what the guardian angel Daniel stands for? And I said, no. He said, well, go look it up and we'll make it part of the show. And I've got the notes here. It's all about, let's see, it's speaking, it's communicating, it's improving skills. And Daniel is the patron of leaders and speakers and
Mm.
musicians. And all of these things that have become part of my life because of those conversations. And all 3 of these people were named Daniel.
mm,
1, okay. 2, pretty good. 3, come on now.
mm.
That is powerful, man. Right. And I think you just have to be open,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of times you can miss it.
Yep.
I mean, there's times where when I look back, people would say, "Hey, you ever thought of starting a podcast?" And I would be, "Oh, yeah, yeah."
Yep.
And then when I look back, I can see dots connect. A lot of people were always speaking that, um, and it was a surprise to me when I started how much I really liked it. But
Yeah.
that was spoken around me for a while. So I do think it's key just to be open. And a lot of times we're looking for this big thunderbolt, but
Yep.
sometimes the divine God is speaking to you. You just have to really listen and go from there. But that's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't believe in coincidences.
Nope.
3 people named Daniel or Dan
Yep. Yeah.
at
And like you
pivotal
said, it's not
moments.
a thunderbolt. It's a lot of times
Right.
it's a whisper.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, people say it all the time, like, oh, what a coincidence. Oh, that was good luck. Nope. It's us paying attention and not staring at our phone or at our shoes, walking around with our heads down. It's head on a swivel. The scientific thing is reticular activating system, becoming aware, knowing what you want, becoming aware of it around you. But a lot of it's on faith, and it's on just a willingness and a desire for us to do this thing. And all of a sudden, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, somebody I love about this, he goes, all of a sudden you start to notice all these opportunities, and then you wonder how long they were there, and they've been there right along. Then you wonder how many you missed when you weren't on that wavelength, or weren't open, or doubted yourself and slammed the door on the potential. Right. So I just walk out the door every day going, all right, let's go. Game on. Let's see what cool things happen today, because even if it doesn't work, I get a good story out of it, or a meme, or a social media post, or a podcast, or something, just by engaging with the world every day.
All right. Good stuff. So Steve, now we're now getting to the part of the show. This is Ted's favorite part of the show. It's called Write This Down. All right. So on Write This Down, we each go around and we each share at least one idea or takeaway from this episode that we feel like the people need to write down so they can level up. So Steve, you're the guest of honor today. What do you feel people need to write down from this segment?
Going back to the gratitude journal, think of, even if you just do one thing when you start your day, write down your favorite moment from the previous day. And I don't mean broad brush. Don't say I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for my spouse, my house, whatever. Think of one really cool moment from the previous day and write it as descriptively as you can in less than one line each. And I'll tell you what, that is a great way to start your day, because what you're doing is putting bricks in a foundation. It's the greatest gift you can give to your future self, is to be grateful for something really cool that's happening right now. So that's my takeaway.
Thank you for sharing that. Start the gratitude journal. Write that down. I think that's great advice. Fantastic. All right, Ted.
Yeah, kind of going back to the discussion around, just being positive and positive interactions with people, even if it's random people, right? Like, I think that's when it's the most powerful, right? When you're on the elevator and you speak to someone, when you're in a restaurant and you speak to someone, when you say something positive, hey, I like those shoes, like something, right? Because there's so much negativity in the world, right? And I just think that if everyone did that, right, just how much better things could possibly be. And then when you ask someone, how are they, how they're doing, right, look at them as if you really would like to know, right? Because oftentimes there's times that I've done that someone will share something, right, and then you have some exchange with them that may help them through a situation, right? And so I just think that if we just take a moment to really try to reach out to others more, I'm sure the world would be a much better place. It only takes a couple minutes, a couple seconds, right? So whether it's a restaurant, an elevator, the grocery store, the person that's behind you in line, I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think finding the opportunities to be positive and make people feel seen, I think that just goes a long way, and you feel better as a result of that. No, that's great. Write that down. So my thing is just kind of going back to this thing with fear, and I'll never forget I was on this program with another pastor, right? And so and we were actually on the same program, and we're backstage, we're talking, and and she's been pastoring for several years, so that's sermons every Sunday, speaking out at other places, and she nudged me about 15 minutes before she's about to go on, and she says, "You know what, Eric? I am really nervous," and I'm shocked. This is somebody that I looked up to as an orator, and this is just what she does. She's like, "I am really nervous." And I'm like, man, she's nervous. Oh my goodness. But it just goes to show you that, fear is something that, again, like we said earlier, is not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that we have. And so for me, like I've learned to use fear as a signal. Like a lot of times for me, when I start to feel the butterflies, that's a signal that that's something I need to do. Like even if it's a difficult conversation that I'm about to have, and I start feeling that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I definitely need to tell this person what's on my mind, because on the other side of that is something better. So I think that's my write this down. Use the fear as a signal of what you need to do to get to your next level. Write that down. All right. Good stuff. This has been a great episode. A lot of great takeaways. Thank you, Steve, for sharing everything that you shared. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Nice and easy. They can find me on social media at Steve Gamlin, Gamlin. And my website and everything that I have going on is available at stevegamlin.com.
All right. Good stuff. All right. Thank you for sharing again. And for those of you watching and listening right now, don't forget to share the show.
Share the show. Share the
All
show.
right. Don't keep this great information to yourself. And don't forget also that you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all of those different podcasting platforms. And don't forget to subscribe, so that way you never miss an episode in the future. So thank you again to Steve Gamlin. This has been a fantastic episode of the 30 Minute Hour Podcast. And until next time, have a great one.